What's up, sports fans? This is the NCAA College Sports Channel. It is time to give you my official upset alert games heading into week number 14, final week of the regular season, and also rivalry weekend of the 2025 college football season. Yes, one of my favorite weekends that I look forward to every year is rivalry weekend. This is one of my favorite weekends of all time in college football. Second probably would have to be Labor Day. There is a lot of great, weekends of college football, but this one definitely is the top. So going to give you the 8 games total for, not 4 games each, but the 8 games that are least likely to be upsets and then probably most likely to be upsets. And going back to my upset alert, games from last week, only one game turned out to be upset, which I thought it would be a quiet week. And that was, of course, the upset was Georgia Tech going down to Pittsburgh. It was a pretty big upset because it did ruin Georgia Tech's probably playoff hopes and then also their ACC championship hopes. I will talk about them now. So let's get into these upset alert games for rivalry weekend, going from the least likely upsets and working my way to the most likely upsets, in my opinion. So starting here, like I just talked about it, Georgia at Georgia Tech. This one will be on Friday afternoon at 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Georgia is favored by 13.5 points in this one. That's a very high number. And yes, we do got some games on Friday, early Friday into Friday night. And then we definitely got games coming up on Saturday, obviously. But you look at this game, Georgia Tech, obviously, where's their mindset at after coming off that really tough loss to Pittsburgh last week? Not only did they lose that game, they're probably out of the college football playoff and then also out of the ACC championship picture. They would need a lot of help in order to kind of make it back in somehow. But, this is a non-conference game, so it really doesn't, matter, here for Georgia Tech. But this game really does matter because it is a rivalry game. And you look at Georgia on the other side, they've been better as of late. They played their best football, against really good competition in the last couple of games. They've looked pretty good. They look like the Georgia team that we expected all season long. They just weren't really completely playing 4 quarters. Are they kind of stepping up now since it is close to the postseason? That's really the big question mark here. I think Georgia Tech's able to keep this game pretty close. Again, I question that 13.5 point spread, but you never know. Georgia could probably win this game by at least a couple of touchdowns if Georgia Tech is just not right in the right in the headspace after that disappointing loss last week to Pittsburgh. All right, next up we have Ohio State at Michigan, the game at noon Eastern Time on Saturday. This one will be on Fox, of course. Ohio State favored by 10. Obviously, the big story, Michigan's won 4 years in a row. Do they make it 5 years in a row? Ohio State's been, really just, they haven't been soft against Michigan, but they just have, not been super consistent against this Michigan team in those 4 matchups that they played. And the last time Ohio State beat Michigan, it was at Ann Arbor in 2019, and that was in Ryan Day's first year. So, yeah, Ryan Day has only beaten Michigan at least once, and that was about it. So, you look at this Michigan team, this is kind of a must-win for them because they're sitting there at number 15 in the playoff rankings. I think if they win, they automatically make the college football playoff just because of their spot. And yeah, Michigan has 2 losses, but they could get in there as a 10-2 team. Ohio State, there's not really a lot of pressure on them. I mean, they can still make it to the Big Ten championship. Maybe that's a little bit of pressure on them, but still, maybe they kind of want that first round bye. And I think Ohio State will be much ready this time, compared to last year's team. Maybe Ohio State was kind of holding back, and they just kind of got frustrated, and they just, kind of wanted to wait till the college football playoffs to kind of show their dominance. I don't really think it happens. I think this is a much better Ohio State team compared to last year's team. Even though they won the national championship, I still think they're a much better team compared to last year's team. But you never know. Again, Michigan can do it for 5 consecutive years in a row, or maybe the Buckeyes finally end the streak. We'll see what happens here in this game. And that's also kind of a pretty high number. Playing on the road, Ann Arbor, that's a very tough place to play. Moving on, we got Virginia Tech and Virginia, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. Virginia's favored by 9.5. And look, I know an upset definitely is not possible here, but you look at Virginia. I think there's a lot of pressure on this team because not only they're sitting there at 9-2, but there is a lot of pressure on them, to possibly make it into the ACC championship. Could they possibly be looking ahead to that game, for next weekend? They can't obviously look ahead. They got to get past this game first in order to get there, because I think if Virginia loses, they're not going to make it to the ACC championship and definitely not the college football playoff. They would have to probably win their conference in order to somehow make it into the playoffs. And Virginia Tech, yeah, they're 3-8. It's been a terrible year for them. They did hire James Franklin for next year's season, but what I saw from Virginia Tech last week against Miami, they did hold in there for quite some time, but it just wasn't enough to pull off the upset. So this one kind of has me intrigued a little bit, and it kind of makes me a little bit worrisome if I was a Virginia fan. So yeah, this one, keep an eye on it at 7 o'clock Eastern time. If it was on the road at Virginia Tech, definitely an upset would definitely be possible, but this one right here is at home for Virginia, so they should be able to feel comfortable in this game. Moving on, we got the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss at Mississippi State, noon Eastern time on early Friday afternoon. This one is on ABC. Ole Miss favored by 7.5 points. Obviously, the big storyline is not really this game. It's really about Lane Kiffin. He's really, there's really a lot of scenarios where he's definitely going to be probably leaving Ole Miss next year, and a lot of teams want him. Let's be honest, a lot of teams want him to come to their school and really make it bright as possible. But is he going to leave Ole Miss? That's definitely a big, question mark here, and you got to wonder if that's a distraction to the Ole Miss players going into this game. Where's their mindset at after that news of Lane Kiffin potentially leaving? They're taking on a Mississippi State team that is 5-6. I would say Mississippi State is definitely better than what their record would suggest. Yeah, they're 5-6. They've lost a lot of close games this year, though. This is a really good Mississippi State football team, and I think, Jeff Lebby's got this program heading in the right direction, and it is the Egg Bowl. We've seen a lot of classics here in this game, so I think Ole Miss is the better team, but you never know. Mississippi State could pull off the upset here, and they're also fighting to get to a postseason bowl. And then for Ole Miss, they still have a chance to make the college football playoff. I think if they lose, though, then they probably keep a 10-2 Ole Miss team out, because if you lose to a 6-loss Mississippi State team, I think the committee will probably penalize you for that. So keep an eye on this one, noon Eastern time on ABC. Next up, Miami at Pittsburgh. Not typically a rivalry game, but this one is at noon Eastern time as well on Saturday. This one will be on ABC. Miami a favored by 6.5 in this one. Obviously, you've got Pittsburgh coming in after that big win over Georgia Tech. They're sitting there with 3 losses. Second place in the ACC standings. If they automatically win this game, they're automatically making the ACC championship. And then obviously they would have to win it in order to make the college football playoff as a 3-loss team. Miami's still in it, though. If Miami wins this game, then they potentially go up to second place the third place, I should say, in the conference standings. Then they would need a lot of help. They probably would have to see SMU or even Virginia to lose, and then Miami could jump into the ACC championship and get potentially a rematch with SMU in that conference title. So this is a conference game that really means a lot here. Again, it's not a rivalry or anything, but it definitely is a conference game that is really meaningful, and it's a winner. It could be like a game that decides, again, if Pittsburgh wins, they're automatically in, but Miami, if they win, they still have a pretty good shot. So, yeah, this is a much-needed game here for both of these teams, and we will see what happens here at noon Eastern time on Saturday afternoon. Moving on, we got Oregon at Washington, 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. Oregon favored by 6.5. You got Oregon coming in after the win over USC. This team has, been on a momentum ever since that loss to Indiana, back in the month of October. You got Washington. This biggest story here for Washington is, I haven't watched this team, basically since the Wisconsin loss, and that really ruined their playoff hopes. And imagine if Washington did not lose that game, then they probably would have been sitting here with 2 losses and a chance to make the college football playoff. Well, they're out of the college football playoff race. There's no question about it. But the Huskies do have a chance to ruin Oregon's playoff hopes a little bit. I mean, Oregon, who have they beat this year that's been really talented? I mean, they beat USC last week, but that's a 3-loss team, and they have a loss to Indiana. I just don't know if the committee will put a 10-2 Oregon team in that scenario. But yeah, that's really a possibility. I think Oregon Oregon is automatically in, though. I mean, that's just my gut feeling that they'll put an automatic Oregon team in just because of name brand bias. But again, Oregon and Washington, this is a rivalry game. Again, it's kind of a must-win here for, Oregon a little bit. But at the same time, Washington can definitely probably, make Oregon's playoff hopes a little bit tricky to kind of figure out whether committee is going to put them in or not. So keep an eye on this one, 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. And then finally, or not finally, we got Alabama at Auburn. This one will be at 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Alabama favored by 6. Obviously, the Iron Bowl, it's at Jordan-Hare. A lot of pressure here on Alabama. If they lose this game, they're out of the college football playoff, in my opinion. If they win, I think they're automatically in. If they get to the SEC championship, that's also an automatic win as well. But you got this Auburn team, 5-6. I think they definitely are better than what their record would suggest. This is another team that lost a lot of close games this year, and they have a potential chance to really knock Alabama out of the playoff with this upset. And if they do that, I think that's going to really make Alabama fans mad, because that would be the second year in a row that they would miss out on the second time of the 12-team playoff era. So yeah, Alabama definitely has to win this game in order to make the SEC championship and then also the college football playoff. So yeah, this one is at Jordan-Hare, very tough place to play at night, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Alabama go down this weekend for the third time. And then finally, another SEC game, Texas A&M at Texas, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. And this one's on Friday night. So yeah, Friday night, Texas A&M favored by 2.5. You got Texas A&M coming undefeated here. If they win this game, they go to the SEC championship, and they also have a pretty much automatic spot in the college football playoff. For Texas, maybe they're still kind of fighting in that, spot for the playoff, but they got 3 losses. I don't know if I see a 3-loss Texas team getting in. But if they get this win against Texas A&M, then you probably have to consider a 3-loss Texas team in the 12-team playoff field. I don't know if I still see them making it in or not, but you never know. So yeah, this one is definitely a big one, and it's also on a Friday night, and those weeknight games are always very tough to predict. So yeah, Texas A&M, I think they're overall the much better team, but yeah, Texas has also got some talented players as well. So yeah, I think this is the most likely upset that could occur. And then also, if Alabama and Texas A&M both lose, then we probably won't see these teams in the SEC championship. It could be a rematch between Ole Miss and Georgia in that scenario, because I don't think they would win the tiebreakers between those two teams. So yeah, Texas A&M and Texas, big rivalry game here, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC, and those are all the upset alert games for me as we head into the final weekend, rivalry weekend of the 2025 college football season. Give me your thoughts on these upset alert games down in the comments below, and out of all these 8 games, which team do you see pulling off the big upset, in my opinion? Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more on the NCAA College Sports YouTube channel.